Hi guys, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Nuggets News. We're back with Michael, head of written research over at the platform, pumping out all that alpha daily, and we've got plenty of crypto news to get through as we're hovering around all-time highs still, Michael.
I think we tapped it the other day too, I think. Or we set a new one. So Bitcoin on its merry way as always. So um lots to talk about. So we'll dive straight in because there's a heap happening. So like what we said, Bitcoin still just wants to keep moving. And it makes you wonder like where we are now in the cycle, because now the narrative is starting to move that ETH is not dead and ETH is going to come next. And now Bitcoin's going to move like to, once Bitcoin gets to 160 or 180, what's ETH going to do? So who knows? Maybe we might be about to come into our sort of alt bull market. That's the time and
Yeah, and
season, the narrative.
I'm fully allocated. All Phillips data metrics, bar one or two, are green, so there's no reason not to be allocated. Technically, it's all looking good, kind of thing. So, Doge had a bit of a pop as well. So people are starting to get appetite for maybe memes and alts and that sort of thing. So it's really good to see everything that's happening at this stage of the cycle.
Well, heaps of news. Obviously, this was a really interesting one, and I think this shows the time and season that we're in. So, California passing a bill allowing them to seize unclaimed Bitcoin that's been on exchanges for more than 3 years. So, the asset that nobody wanted, now they're finding ways to commandeer your Bitcoin, showing what sort of an asset it is.
Yeah, and as we've been saying for years and years, not your keys, not your coins, guys. So use your exchanges, use your crypto debit cards for your spending, whatever you got to do, but have your your own crypto safely in cold storage. Ledger or Multisig is a new one as well, with that multi-device to segregate your key so you can't get hacked, which we'll be talking about more and more. But then Multisig have added some new features as well recently, so got that interview coming any day now as well.
Super cool. Um, okay, so the narrative is now shifting around stablecoins, obviously with the Genius Act passing. For those that don't know, it pretty much just means that stablecoins have become legitimate. Um, and Tom Lee, who is, the famous investor, he's just become a Ethereum mega bull, saying that most stablecoins are going to be run on Ethereum, which seems to be the narrative. Like, BlackRock, I saw the commentary the other day that BlackRock hasn't launched a Solana ETF, but they have launched an Ethereum ETF. And so it seems like Ethereum's legitimacy and maybe track record is probably giving it a leg up, even though Solana maybe had the narrative and the speed and all that sort of, you know, gamification. Ethereum still seems like it's got some institutional trust.
Yeah,
Um,
interesting to see how that plays out with all the Bitcoin-backed stablecoins that are being played around with and coming online. Palladium on Botanics, Stacks even talking about starting to issue Tether on their layer two and that sort of thing. So, and as we've been talking about, is there still appetite? There's no real decentralized stablecoins anymore, which is kind of scary as we move
mm,
towards this world of central bank digital currency. So it'd be great to see some of them gain some market share, some decentralized ones.
yeah, we're on the hunt at the moment looking for projects that actually do have that like ethos of decentralization still when it comes to the stablecoin market. But that's a probably a longer conversation for another day. Um, but we saw some like really interesting like FUD that also came out about Tether this week. So there was a hit piece on Tether in The Economist that pretty much just talking about how they're just a cowboy Ponzi scheme. But I think right now like stablecoins make up like they're about the seventh biggest buyer of US debt, and that could very easily become number one, and that would make the total stablecoin market probably 8 to 10x from here. So you can only imagine what's going to happen to the altcoin market, the Bitcoin market, if that does happen. But yeah, it looks like a very like interesting time and season we're at now, where you, for those that want to go read the full article here, you can see the Twitter handle here. But yeah, a big hit piece in The Economist, effectively just trying to say that this is danger territory now, the money launderer's dream. So just as this is about to go mainstream as well.
And Jamie even mentioned that in the interview we had the other day about Australia and all that sort of thing. He said he's pretty against Tether. I mean, I haven't seen anything to suggest it is, not backed. All those every cycle we have these rumors that Tethers doesn't have the reserves it says, but now it's all pretty transparent. The fact that they're holding government bonds and stuff, I think it is all backed, but it's backed by fiat. So it's, yeah, make of that what you will.
Yeah, I mean, I can't. It's almost gotten to the point now where they're too big to fail. Like if they really are the seventh biggest holder of treasuries and they're holding more than like most European countries, like the US can't afford to like go and shut them down now. So yeah, watch this space. XRP applying for a bank license. So this would also be a very interesting move because there was a lot of FUD. And we talked about this last week about how we're probably all maybe having to come around a little bit on XRP's longevity here because it seems like they just keep kicking goals. And ever since the court case against them has sort of been dropped, now it seems like they actually will get quite a bit of adoption here. And so, shout out to all the XRP bulls. They weathered a massive storm there. And yeah, banking license here would be very interesting for the next move.
Yeah, 8 years of price pain really, and it does seem like if they get that banking license, I think that means they're a fully counted as a fully regulated chartered bank like any other bank in the US. But again, does that tie into far higher prices for XRP? It depends how they create that demand for XRP, even though banks are going to be using them and using that system and that sort of thing. That's what I want to see. But yeah, they do appear to be continuing to hit goals.
There's a cult based around XRP, and like I'll admit, again, I've said this multiple times. I've never been a huge believer. I don't love the like elements of like appeared centralization or institutionalization of XRP and the whole narrative around it. It's not my personal cup of tea, but I could be wrong here. And some people are very adamant that this is so much better than everything else. So because of the cult, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw an $8 XRP one day. Like this, it's definitely on the table. So if you're looking to trade it, like I'd be paying attention.
Okay.
All right, so this is a very interesting one. So Phantom Wallet has always been the big Solana wallet, and they've branched out, outside of just the Solana ecosystem when they started including Ethereum-based wallets. Well, they've now just linked in Hyperliquid, another one of the projects which we spoke about very early and has taken huge amounts of, TVL. But now you can do, 40x leverage all in your pocket from your mobile app inside Phantom Wallet. So this is another big win for Hyperliquid and a very interesting move now from Phantom as well.
Yeah, I mean, you've basically got to have a good mobile app these days to on ramp. Things have changed so much from 2017 signing up on your laptop or your computer. And we do want it to be more user friendly for the average person. I'm not sure if 40x leverage is the way to go for beginners to on ramp people and whatever, but yeah, that's kind of the degenerate style of crypto, isn't it? That gets people on board early and then they realize how to invest long term.
The narrative has moved from the pump fund meme coins to back to sort of perpetuals and leverage trading. Um, so another real interesting one here. So like we've been talking a lot about like adoption and where the next phase of things go here. So public companies just like gobbling up Bitcoin. And this is the mega ETF that you were talking about here, where they're looking for like a conglomerate of assets that all go into one ETF.
Yeah, I mean, it was many years ago now when there was only talk about the Bitcoin ETF, and I sort of said that once we get the Bitcoin, then we'll get Ethereum, and then we'll get just like with the gold miners, the large cap index, and that's why we were telling our followers to be heavy weighted in Bitcoin ETH. So even XRP now, I'm still even not sure about ADA, but these are just the ones that have been around the longest, that have appeared the safest or whatever, that are going to get these ETFs, love them or hate them, and that's where the institutional money is going to continue to flow. So good to see Grayscale getting that product approved.
So another real like big event from this week, we had the Salana, breakout hackathon. And so if you're looking for like some alpha or before any sort of altcoin run, there's a lot of different projects here that all got listed as part of the I guess next wave of Solana projects. So we'll continue to go through this and look at some of the big winners here and sort of write individual articles about them. But this is sort of how we would normally go out and find sort of the next wave of altcoin gems. There's some pretty interesting stuff. Like our team was researching over this a lot and looking at some of the big winners from this. And so we'll have a lot more interesting sort of updates on this. But the Solana ecosystem is obviously very well capitalized, and there's a lot of people who are building in that space still. So there'll be a lot that comes out of that.
Yeah.
Okay, for all those who probably are into the Evil Elite series, this one for me rang alarm bells. So Polymarket was the space that nailed the US election more than any of the other polls. It had it bang on. And it's been right in, several areas where most other sort of common thought patterns were off. It seems like people are now trying to manipulate public sentiment on Polymarket. by, dropping a whole bunch of cash in there to maybe throw people off the scent of, what prediction markets might be trying to show us. So this is just another way that you can see that like those with power and with deep pockets try to manipulate. And now Polymarket is being a platform where that's trying to be utilized.
It's interesting, isn't it? If you've got money and power to buy, the media, Hollywood or politics, and now if you've got money and power, can you change sentiment and people's thought process and decision making by changing the betting markets and telling someone that no, it's a 90% chance that's not going to happen, even though most people might be in favour of it. So this is another manipulating of reality in this crazy world that we're living in.
Crazy, but now crypto's the battleground for that as well. So for those that have been following along, the Monad ecosystem has been one that we've talked about a little bit. Their token is not live yet, but this will be a big launch. It's very, very well funded by a lot of institutional people. Now, a lot of these high FDV type launches have not necessarily been the greatest in the past, but the Monad eco will be big, and I wouldn't be surprised if this launches as a top 20 project. And so we're starting to track some of these other projects inside the ecosystem that are getting big funding. So Kuru, I have no idea what Kuru is. I'm guessing it's some sort of DEX, but 11.6 million in funding for a DEX or some sort of trading platform is mental in this day and age as well. So we'll be watching the Monad ecosystem in its launch. It's rumored to launch around the end of Q3. There's going to be a lot of opportunities here for a lot of the different projects inside this ecosystem. It's just another EVM parallelized chain. But it's going to have a lot of hype back around it as well because there's a lot of investment in it.
Yeah, and that's the way to go this cycle, isn't it? Looking at which chains are going to have the most growth or an activity, and then going for those infrastructure plays within them as the blue chips, as it's been a blue chip focus for the whole cycle.
Yeah, there'll be a lot of Monad content which we're going to put out. We've been paying very close attention here, and I'm pretty convinced that it's going to launch big. So whether or not that's a good thing or a bad thing for the space probably doesn't matter if you're trying to trade, but we'll cover a lot of stuff inside that ecosystem when it does launch.
Fantastic.
So Pump Fund token sale is going to begin. The exchange sale is going to begin in 3 days' time. So this seems like if you're asking me, this seems like the exit strategy for the founders a little bit. I think that volumes have dropped off massively in their revenue that they're producing. So why not put out a token? But that's coming. So I would see. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a bit of a Salana spike around this because there will be a lot of NPCs that go hard on this.
It could be a good trading opportunity as well if it sort of pumps then dumps really hard and then see what the valuation is before maybe getting back in. But yeah, just be cautious at launch.
Yeah, we flagged this not because I think that this is an opportunity, but just to be aware that volatility will come to the Solana ecosystem as a result. And then here, so we spoke last week about Botanics, but their mainnet went live, and so they've had their first few days of that, and heaps of stuff happening. And so we're paying very close attention here because I think you and I are both big fans of the idea of Bitcoin L2s and Bitcoin DeFi. So paying very close attention to how Botanics tracks. They're one of several very interesting sort of Bitcoin L2 plays, and so seems like it's all going pretty strong.
Yeah, guys, if you haven't used them yet, as William mentioned in the interview, you can bridge over the Lightning Network, Astro Labs, or if you've just got Bitcoin in your normal Bitcoin wallet, you can bridge via the Botanics bridge on their website or Garden Finance. The campaign with all the giveaways and get some sats to play those games. Palladium stablecoin going live, Bitcoin-backed stablecoin. So... and GMX perps as well on Botanics now. So this is really cool. And obviously Stacks is still the leader, but this is going to be some competition for Stacks. So it's important to see what comes next for Stacks. But all the Bitcoin DeFi, I think, is still the biggest focus and opportunity as we grow into a multi-trillion-dollar market cap for Bitcoin, and people want to put that to work.
Pretty excited about this one because we've seen Build on Bitcoin, Bob, that kind of had a bit of a launch, didn't quite pop like I thought it might, and then BitLayer is probably the other one. What with Stacks and Botanics, it's there's some interesting stuff happening in this space now.
Fantastic. Well, guys, you can head over to nuggetsnews.com.au for our free newsletter, all our research or our VIP services. And guys, the VIP call, if you're in the group, was posted last night as well if you missed it. But otherwise, Michael, we will see you again next week. Thanks as always. Cheers, guys.